This is example 3 of Whisper Transcription. We're going to run a single file where we provide AES transcription for the outputted zip file or compressed file. Let's move on to our uCloud platform. You can see that I'm starting this job before our second example is completed. So you'll be able to see that we can run jobs concurrently. Looking again for the transcription, or let's have a look for Whisper Transcription. Go to Applications and start the application. Whisper Transcription example 3. We're going to do single file. We're going to ignore the language and model size and complete this with and by default, because we're working with sensitive data, we are again going to specify the output folder. But this is again going to be a 16 core machine. It's the same every time. I'm not going to get into that each time. We're going to choose our input file, not an input directory. And for this input file, we go into our sensitive data audio files folder and choose the file rather than the folder again. And in this case, I'd like to choose this second file. If I recall correctly, it had quite a bit of Danish in it. So let's see what language the model automatically determines it is. We are going to provide a password for the archive. An archive or zip file or compressed file is going to be available after we download it with a password. So let's give this archive a password, and since you can see it, I will give it a silly password such as "you can see this password." I'll just copy and paste that for once we're done. So you can see this password is going to be the password for that zip file. Everything else has been selected. So no language selected, just a single file with encryption, auto selection of the language, but we do need to select our output directory. And our output directory opens the output directory dialog, sensitive data, and then we find our folder for example 3, and we'll use that. Remember, always specify your output folder if you have sensitive data, and pre-specify it to be a folder within a folder that already is marked as sensitive. Then it will just inherit the characteristics of that sensitive folder. And let's submit this job. And while that job runs, I'm also going to start the fourth example. And with that, you'll be able to see that we can run multiple Whisper jobs on their own machines. They are totally unaffected by one another because it is on this large high-performance computing platform. That's it for this video for now, and we'll get back into the results shortly. Example 3's data is now produced and available in its folder. We'll just navigate to that folder, open it up, go into our sensitive data folder and into the example 3 folder, where you can see that the single file has now transcribed and we have this archive or zip file. Let's just download that zip file and see how it looks. If we open up the folder where that zip file is located, let's just have a look at that. Go into my downloads folder and just make sure we can see what is available. If we move this folder across to where you can see it, I'm just going to make sure that the view doesn't expose too much. Here we go. Here's my downloads folder. There is the zip file. So if I double click on that now, it should ask me for a password. So that gives you the additional layer of security, and it seems like it has "you can see this." Ooh, did it have password on it? "You can see this password" was the password, and that has now extracted it into a folder. Something to bear in mind if you do this is that this extracted data is no longer password protected. So anything you have in this folder is not going to be password protected. I can open it up, and just to show you a follow-up on the file, the text file that we saw earlier, I'm just using Sublime Text to have a look at it. You can see that the lines are separated one by one. It is not one big text chunk, but it is all out in English. This conversation most certainly contained Danish. So let's close that file and go back out, and we can delete these two files before our next example. And that is it for example number 3, a single file with password encryption.